Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and another episode of Car Chat. Hi Carlos, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you, Irving?
I'm doing well, doing well. We're back into our Car Chat series. I know we took a break and hopefully we'll be posting new episodes about a whole lot of topics that we have planned. And today it's gonna be a little bit different. We want to do a deep dive, I'm gonna call it, into Lucid Motors. This will be very helpful for not just everyone interested in this transition into EVs and electric vehicles and new companies like Lucid, but also anybody that is interested in the car and acquiring one of those cars so that they can learn more about the company, the car, the technology. And I know you have done a bit of an investigation on some of the details, Carlos. So it will be great to hear from you in terms of what you've discovered.
Yes, absolutely. I know it's a relatively young new company, right? Um, and it was born not too many years ago. So for those who don't know, Lucid is pretty much EV company, right? By all means, it's not a total new startup, but their beginnings and origins were not automobiles. It was just motors and batteries, and that's what they started. And they started with a name that was Ativa, and it was pretty much formed by a couple guys that got together, CEO from Oracle, Sam Wang, and Bernard C, former Tesla VP and board member, and both got together and decided, hey, let's get on it. And in 2016, they decided to change the name because it didn't have a lot of attraction. It wasn't like sounding a good name for automotive cars. So the name Lucid Motors came in place, and they brought in Peter Rawlinson, which is former Tesla VP of engineering. He was pretty much the chief engineer for Tesla Model S. So he had a lot of experience. And before that, chief engineer at Lotus and principal engineer at Jaguar. So Peter is well known in the community, auto community, a very good engineer of engineers, so to speak. So he took the helm of Lucid. So its current CEO and CTO, our chief technical officer, and they're leading the company uh, through a lot of technologies and advances that other companies are still not there yet. So if we want to learn a little more, one of the key things that gives them a good credibility is like, the series Formula E. It's
Yeah.
just the sister series of Formula One. Ativa is the sole producer and supplier of the batteries for the Formula E series.
Oh,
So they have gained lots of experience and know-how and about batteries, what things to do, what things to avoid, and what can make a battery go, but pretty much and last. And if you go back to the origins of the Formula E, not to talk about the episode on Formula E, but there used to be two cars, Irving, and the race had to be run with half of the race with one car, flip over, the driver would get out of the car, get on the other car, and finish the race because the battery wouldn't last
wow.
for the term of the race.
I didn't know that.
Nowadays, the whole race is done with one car, one battery. So
Nice.
big changes, big improvements, and
Is it 3 laps? Just kidding.
no, no. But I can tell you, I don't think it's 50, 60 laps either.
Right,
I
of
think it's
course.
a range of 30 to 40 laps, depending on the event and the.
You
But
know that some people think that Lucid is a Chinese company. Well, it's not.
no, actually not, and it's heavily backed by the uh, Saudis
Oh,
more than anybody else. They have
but
the
it's based in
most.
California. It's a California company.
Yes, and the main manufacturing facility is based in Casa Grande, Arizona.
Right.
That's where they have their manufacturing facility, but pretty much all the origins from there. Their product, their first out of the gate is the Lucid Air, Irving.
I saw it in the flesh in the Ferrari dealership. Gonna
Mhm.
put a link here to that video when I visited the dealership.
Yeah,
That car looks like wow.
a dream.
It looks like build quality like Mercedes Benz. I have to tell you,
Well,
beautiful car.
they aim at the luxury sedan market, basically Lexus, Jaguar, BMW, Mercedes Benz, but in an EV format.
Right.
And they hit the ground running, and they said, we are going to aim at the best of the best. Just a tidbit, this is not the only one. They got other projects in the works, right? Especially an SUV is up and coming, but I'll mention that a little bit later, a little more details about what might be coming from them. But pretty much it's what this company is focusing and bringing on. So what about the Lucid Air? What is so special about it? Well, out of the gate, Irvin, we're talking a range of 520 miles on a single charge.
That's a bit more than the Tesla Model S. Yeah.
Significantly more.
Yeah.
The high-end Model S, it's around 400, little over 400. And this takes it way above and beyond that. So it's kind of like one of those things like this, all right, it's rated at 520. How much can you actually get? And the testing that people have done so far have taken it on highway testing around 500 miles. So the car is capable of going way out there, far, far and beyond. And they got other trim models, smaller series.
Yeah.
They have packaged smaller batteries with less modules that could get 405 range, which is basically the high end of what the Tesla offers right now in high range. So their low end range is Tesla latest high range capability. So that gives you a flavor of what Lucid have under the hood, so to speak.
Right.
And at the bottom of the car where the battery is and the tech that goes there is just insane. Some quick specs: 0 to 60 mid 2 seconds. Okay, which is
super fast.
Super fast. Quarter mile under 10 seconds. Okay, quarter mile under 10 seconds.
It's a big sedan too,
and
right?
It's a big sedan. But what things allow that to work is they have one of the most aerodynamic cars in the market ever done, period, which measures about 0.21 CD. And that's roughly with, I think it's the 19-inch wheels. And if you guys know a little bit about aero, the bigger the wheels, potentially the more problems you have with aero, managing aero, because the size, drives more turbulence and less efficiency. The bigger the wheel, the higher the mass, and it keeps adding. So 19-inch wheels, the car goes and records roughly about 0.21 CD, which is fantastic, and which allows to carve through the air. Less resistance.
It's a very seamless design, right? It looks like it's made of one piece. And I mean, that it's striking, right? And there's a lot of use of glass around the car. The whole roof is glass all the way.
But
I mean,
did you know?
beautiful.
Did you know this car is actually smaller than the Model S and the Taycan?
It doesn't look smaller.
It doesn't look smaller. The shape and the proportions they gave it makes it look and appear bigger, but they're actually a little smaller than that. The Taycan is actually a little lower in height than the Lucid. But as far as the length and width, it's smaller and narrower than the other two, which gives it an advantage, aerodynamic advantage, to get that extra range.
The other thing I liked is the interior. They use a combination of materials inside, and it's pretty cool. And I know like Ford has tried some of that in the Mach-E. Where you have like different kind of materials and that looks pretty cool. It's not like your normal BMWs or Mercedeses, right?
But what's fun though, in an electric vehicle format, because of the way they arrange their powertrain, they actually have more legroom for the rear passengers than a long wheelbase Mercedes-Benz S-Class.
Wow.
So on a package smaller than the Tesla S and a Taycan, and you have more legroom than a Mercedes. So what does that tell you? It's unbelievable.
It is.
So moving right along, worth mentioning, to be able to charge this car, they went with an architecture that has 800-volt system. What does that do? Well, that allows you to charge at a higher rate. When you charge at a higher rate, that means you reduce the time for charging your vehicle, and you get more miles of charge time for less time. In comparison to Tesla, like the Model 3, their latest, they only use 400-volt system. And as far as charging capacity, well, with the higher voltage, they can go up to 300. I think if there's limited to 300 internal charger on the vehicle, 300 kilowatt. The Tesla only goes 250, which means in a charge time, the Lucid would have an advantage. Your customer that gets one will be able to recharge their vehicle, get more miles in less time. The claim at the moment is that they can charge roughly about 20 miles per minute and roughly about 300 miles in 22 minutes, which is a significant amount
Wow.
of mileage that you can actually pump in the car. It's like, and you just go. And I'll give you some more accurate figures a little bit down. Because of the higher voltage system that they went with, you know, the charging process is what really determines the cooling capacity of the vehicle for the battery. And not driving it hard, not drag racing it, though those generate significant loads on the battery and motors, but it is more taxing to charge it, simply charging it, because it's such a high voltage, high amp demand in a short period of time. The cooling system have to be robust to take the high end. So that means that when you're racing your car, driving it, it should be a lot more robust system capable of maintaining your batteries at pretty decent temperature and control environment, which they have a lot of controls for their battery, which makes it super interesting. And secondly, with a high volt system, when normal operation occurs, you can produce, they claim, roughly about 1/5 of the heat that you would at a lower voltage system. Well, heat is the number one energy of power. When you have too much heat, it robs your power, it takes the amps, and then instead of producing the power you want, you produce a lot of heat, and that's not what you want. You want to minimize the heat. That's why you go with high voltage system. So that's an advantage that they have over the competitors right now in the market. Worth also mentioning that one of the cool features, if you look through the car, they design at the bottom of the car, they have like a shield all the way at the bottom wrapping up the car, and it's literally 8mm thick and epoxy based composite ballistic grade material. And what's right above that shield? It's the battery and the battery cage and the system. This shield was designed to be aerodynamically shaped so that it doesn't only provide that protection that you're looking for, but very aerodynamic form underneath the car to produce the CD numbers that I mentioned to you earlier, which is mind-blowing. This thing improves your dynamic, hence improving range. Very cool. Very cool tidbit here on the motor itself. They have one of the most efficient by-weight motors in the market. The drive units that they use produce 650 horsepower, and each unit only weighs 163 pounds. Out of this small motor, they can produce that amount of horsepower, which is honestly beyond anything that we've seen on an ICE vehicle. Internal combustion engines are not that efficient, producing that much power for that weight. So electric cars have this ability to be able to produce gigantic amounts of power and torque, instant torque in the low end RPM, and do it with very minimal weight impact to the car. So performance cars in the future, once you get good batteries in the market with a lot more density, battery density on it, they're gonna get a lot lighter. And when that happens, dude, the amount of power you get, it's gonna be blowing the mind out of people driving and performance vehicles.
All of this from a new company, which is mind-blowing, right?
Mind-blowing.
That they don't have the history and the R&D budget.
That's the part that blows me out. It's like, wow. But keep in mind, they were a motor battery company first before becoming a car company. So they were studying these, especially the drive unit. And when you compare it to the Taycan and the other high-end cars right now, electric, they're 45% lighter and 59% more powerful than even the closest competitor. So when you have that weight to power advantage, you can do a lot more things, and a lot more models could be very exciting for the company to leverage other vehicles in the market.
Can they make it, Carlos? That's the big question. You know, can they make in volume? Can they navigate the shortage of chips and in the whole situation, right? Or are they like Rivian that they can't deliver on their promises?
Well, to no fault of their own, the issue with the chip shortage has hit everyone, and no startup has been vulnerable, not vulnerable to it. All of them have been hit. Um, they have plans to catch up and make it up. They can only hope and try as the chip crisis improves, potentially in the next year. And then we mentioned we had an episode on chip issues
Yep.
before the shortage, and to be honest, we are not in the clear yet. A lot of people say it will improve continuously, progressively this year, but I mentioned before in the previous episodes, we probably head into the 2023s as well until we see a much more stable availability of chips in the market for all the auto companies. And this is no exception. It has hit them. And like every new company, they have teething problems in manufacturing. But in lieu of opening the gates and making a lot of products and then having to recall them and putting a lot of things out, they have taken their time.
Right.
And if anything, they have done timeout and say, let's fix what we have, whatever going on, and not put it out in the market. If it's available and I got parts and it's okay to go, let's go ahead and do it. But I think with the backing they have, they will make it. And once they see the product out there and put in the right hands, it's expensive. You and I know already that this vehicle is priced way, way, way in the
What's the
high.
MSRP on it?
Well, there's a big range. And when I did the analysis, the lowest model that at the 400-mile range was MSRP around 77,000. But the Lucid Air Dream version, which had the high-end range, the performance version was starting around 160.
Wow.
And I think that's up to 170s, in the mid 70s now, because of battery and materials have gone on in pricing. The inflation has hit them too. They're
Right.
not vulnerable. I mean, they're vulnerable just any other manufacturer, and the pricing has to be adjusted to compensate for that. So I think they're sitting now with a high-end model close to 175 to 180. What they
Which
offer.
is a lot more expensive than the Model S Plaid, which is the most extreme Tesla.
How much do you think the Model S Plaid is going right now?
Well, I don't know right now with the inflation, but it was 130, 140.
It is showing a trend. If I go back to 2021 January, that vehicle has gone up in price around 30 to 35%.
Wow.
They're passing the cost to the consumer.
Of course.
Gotta
Yeah.
do that.
Same
They
is
want to
happening
stay
with
survive,
Rivian.
they're gonna do it. Quick comparison between the two. You know, people say high charging system versus normal, what do you call normal charging system at the 250 kilowatt hour versus 350. Oh my God, somebody found something on the web. That was Siri talking here.
You're getting help there, I see.
I can see that technology not helping. Basically, for the high-end charging system, at 15-minute mark, if I were to plug two vehicles at the same time and charge them for 15 minutes, on one, I could charge all the way up to 32%, going down from 0 to 32% in 15 minutes. On the high charging system, I can do it to 46%. So that's equivalent of putting in 160 miles versus 230. That's what gives you an advantage of high voltage system. I can quickly go in and get 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I get 200 miles. And you hit the road and say, hey, I don't need to stop for another 200 miles. So I just quick stop, 5 to 10 minutes, I'm out, and I'm another 200 miles down the road, stopping if I want to, or draining the battery even further, whatever works for your.
That's great. So Carlos, what's your take then on this car, man? After going through all the facts and figures, the technology, you know, why it's different, the design, what's your take on the car?
And on the car itself, the technology is there. It's the most advanced one in the marketplace. They prepped it and have the things on board that will give customers, for their money, of course, a good advantage over what's already in place. The things that you're going to need is to make sure that in the market, if you want to take advantage of the high charging rate, that you can actually get stations that are powering you up at 800 volts and
Right.
charge you, and to get that benefit. Otherwise, you'll charge at the same rate what a Tesla does. It's small company. The sales that they plan and they're doing right now, just like Tesla, is direct sales. The same thing for service. They have a few stations here and there, but their model, I think, is going to be going to customers' places and fixing them. I don't know how that model goes for long term. Big growth, big company. I don't know how that's going to be sustainable. Big question marks. Regardless of what the product looks like, how do you eventually support it? Not that it's going to need perhaps that amount of repairs. Hopefully not. If it's a decent product, you don't have to go there. But on the long term, that's open. And from their end, if you look at their plans for the future, Irving, they're not stopping with the sedan. They're going for an SUV. I mentioned that earlier in the beginning of the video. They have a code name called Project Gravity, and they were hoping that by the end of 2023, the vehicle would get launched and start adding volume. So for this year, they were hoping to hit 20,000 Lucid Airs. I think they're gonna fall short because of the chip shortage.
Right.
Move on to next year. They were hoping that in combination of the new launch of the SUV, which may have been delayed, honestly, I don't know yet. But if they launch and they were hitting their numbers, they were aiming to roughly 50,000 units between the two. With a ramp up for 24 to hit around 90,000, and roughly split about 50,000 for the SUV, 40,000 for the sedan. And looks like the sedan expected volume range over the next 2 years after that is about the same, 42,000 take rate per year. But the SUV, they're hoping goes from 50,000 on 24 to maybe somewhere around 86 to 90,000 in 25, and maybe over 130,000 in 2026, which that tells me that their hopes are pinned for growth on the SUV, which is what most of the people are buying nowadays, right?
Yeah.
That's what the market commands, SUVs.
Yeah.
People want them, they're going to aim and have something, but also affordable. So I think that's a space to look for. If they figure out a way to leverage the scale and lower that pricing so that it hit the sweet spot in the market, they may have a shot, if they do a decent looking product, at the market penetrating, getting what they aim. And then for 25, they have another model they're aiming. They haven't said what it is. My suspicion is some sort of other type of SUV, which has maybe by 26 about 75,000 unit growth, maybe higher end luxury SUV.
Big plans
Who
with
knows?
one manufacturing site in Arizona, no partnership with any of the big automakers. We'll have to see if anything
Watch the
becomes
space.
real, right? Watch the space. And then the other thing we need to watch is the reliability, right? As people
Yes.
use the cars more,
Yeah.
Because you say what you want about Tesla, build quality and whatnot, but they are reliable. And that's when they started selling like hotcakes, right? Like when people said, you know what, this is a car that I can use. It doesn't take much for maintenance. The same will happen probably with this one. But yeah, great
Yeah.
car. If you have a chance to see it in person, it's different from everything else.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, even the logo is sort of a throwback to the 30s.
Yeah.
The car looks like it's from the Jetsons. You know the Jetsons? Yeah. So it looks like a car from the future.
Yes.
And the Art Deco lettering and all of that. I mean, it's a super elegant, super beautiful car. I hope they make it, right? We need interesting cars on the road.
Yeah, and all the other stuff that I didn't even touch, what they plan to offer entertainment wise in the system, the interface with the customer, and the self-driving mode, which all the cars are aiming for. All that, it's more to come as the technology matures. It's already built in the car.
Cool.
So watch us.
All right. Listen, you have more questions about Lucid or more information? I know you have more. Carlos, put your comments here down below.
More than happy to answer questions.
Yeah, remember to subscribe. I'm going to put the link here and follow us on social media. A lot more coming up on Car Chat. Thank you, Carlos, for this deep dive. Very useful.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. See you around next time. Take care.
Catch you later, next episode.
Cheers. Bye.